This grandma's epic struggle, loan refused. But what happened next will haunt you. The small town of Maplewood was shaken to its core on that fateful Wednesday when Grandma Edna stood outside the bank, clutching her faded plaid handbag. She was just a sweet old lady, but there was something different about her that day. The wind howled around her, sending a few stray leaves skittering by, as if nature itself was trying to warn her of the storm brewing inside. Her shaky hands gripped the door handle, and a deep shudder passed through her frail body. Today was the day she'd been waiting for, or so she thought. Today she was here to secure her future. Instead, she faced her worst nightmare. She shuffled into the bank, where the air felt thick and heavy, almost like it was charged with electricity. The brightly lit interior, usually so welcoming, now seemed to mock her. The glossy floors reflected an image she didn't recognize, a desperate woman, eyes darting anxiously, heart racing wildly. All she needed was a small loan to get her grandson the surgery he desperately needed, his only chance at life. The anxiety twisted in her gut tighter than a vice as she approached the teller. They looked at her blankly. "Sorry, Mrs. Edna, but your application has been denied." The word struck her like a gunshot, the noise echoing in her mind. She could see the disapproving glances from behind the counter, their eyes narrowed like predators watching their prey. How could they not see the gravity of her situation? Her heart sank, but just then, something strange flickered in the teller's expression. Was it fear? Before she could process it, a dark shadow lurked at the entrance, a looming figure whose intentions felt wrapped in a dark mist. It was a stranger dressed in a long black coat, mysterious as a midnight fog. Whispering voices flooded the bank, spreading a chill across the room. "What does he want?" murmured a woman nearby, her voice trembling like a brittle leaf. Edna felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, a primal instinct kicking in. There was danger in the air. Her stomach twisted as she turned to face this unfamiliar presence, only to find the stranger staring straight at her. His piercing blue eyes felt like daggers plunged into her soul. "You'll regret it," he said, his voice smooth yet twisted, sending chills down her spine. What did he know? How could he possibly understand what she was going through? This was no ordinary day. This was a turning point. She could sense it, every nerve in her body buzzing with urgency and fear. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the last words slipped from her lips, the teller's face blanched, and the air thickened around them even more. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the tension, and the front door burst open. Everyone turned to see what had happened, breaths held in collective disbelief. The stranger had vanished, yet something dark loomed over Edna, like a shadow whispering secrets of despair. Would she find a way to save her grandson? Or would this bizarre encounter leave her forever haunted? The silence that filled the bank was suffocating. Edna's heart pounded against her chest as she scanned the room, her breath hitching. Where had the stranger gone? People were murmuring, their voices an unsettling cacophony merging with her racing thoughts. "Did you see that?" a young man exclaimed, his face pale. One moment he was there, and the next, gone. Edna shifted on her feet, her knees quaking. She wanted to flee, to leave the suffocating whispers and slip into the comforting embrace of her familiar, quiet home. But she couldn't, not yet. Not until she figured out what this all meant. The teller, still looking ashen, blinked at her from across the counter. "Mrs. Edna, do you need assistance?" The way the question hung in the air felt more like a probing inquiry than a genuine offer. What could they help her with now? A denied loan? It felt like a slap to the face, and she was in no mood for pity. "No," she snapped, her voice barely above a whisper. Her head spun as she fought against a rising tide of panic. She had to push through this. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. But just then, the air shifted again. A door swung open. This time, it was the back office, echoing with the sound of hurried footsteps. The bank manager emerged, a tall man with a keen gaze. He glanced furtively around the room, his expression tight as if he was trying to calm a brewing storm. "There's been an incident," he announced, his voice steady but low enough to draw everyone in. "We need to conduct a security check. Please remain calm." The word sent a wave of uncertainty rippling through Edna. An incident? Was it connected to the stranger? Every instinct told her to leave, but the fear of the unknown rooted her in place, her unsteady legs unwilling to obey. The crowd began to shift restlessly, casting panicked glances at one another. The atmosphere morphed from thick tension to palpable fear as thoughts swirled in Edna's mind. If there was an incident, what had happened? Suddenly, she felt a pressure behind her. The bank's entrance swung open again, and a figure stepped inside, a police officer in uniform. He surveyed the room, his demeanor calm yet commanding attention. "Everyone, I need you to stay where you are. We're investigating a possible threat," he said, his voice booming against the walls. Whispers erupted in the crowd, and someone gasped, "A threat? Where?" Her heart racing, Edna's thoughts spiraled into a darkness. What if the stranger had something to do with this? He warned her. "Regret," he said. "A twist of fate, perhaps?" She thought of her grandson. Thoughts of surgery and survival surged through her, battling against the rising turmoil in her gut. "Ma'am?" The officer approached her. Suddenly, Edna felt the weight of everyone's eyes on her. "Are you all right? Did you see anything unusual just now?" His tone was serious, the kind of serious that chilled her bones. Did she dare share what she'd seen? Who would believe her? She grappled with her instincts, pushing down the fear. How could she save her grandson if she didn't even understand the danger lurking here? Just a stranger," she stammered, the words tasting bitter and inadequate on her tongue. He warned me." The officer's brow furrowed. "Warned you? About what?" Edna hesitated. The room felt like it was closing in, shadows wrapping around her tightly. She could almost hear the whispers of the dark shadow rage against the world, rebelling against the ordinary paths they tread. About regret," she finally managed, her voice barely a whisper. A tension draped over the room, silence enveloping them like a thick fog. Then, the officer nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing as he took in her words. "Stay by my side," he instructed. "I'll need you to tell me everything." With dread pooling in her stomach, Edna realized something ominous was unfolding. This wasn't just about a loan anymore, it was about something much more sinister. Just then, a rumbling sound echoed from outside. The ground seemed to shiver beneath her feet. What was that? She gasped, panic flaring within her once more as everyone huddled closer together. What now? Through the glass doors, a glimpse of chaos unfolded, red lights flashing, the screeching sound of tires, and shouts cutting through the thick air. The real question loomed, what had she just unleashed? As the situation escalated, Edna knew she was racing against time. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed not just her, but everyone around her? The next few moments would determine her fate, and her grandson's. The officer's voice cut through the pandemonium like a knife. "Everyone, stay calm." The crowd was unruly now, their faces illuminated by the eerie red flashing light streaming in through the windows. Edna felt the room spin. How could it be both chaotic and silent at the same time? "Ma'am, I need you to focus," he urged, snapping her attention back. Edna blinked hard, grounding herself in the reality around her. The dim light cast long shadows across the floor, and for a moment, she worried she might lose her hold on consciousness. The fear was electric, racing under her skin. Regret, she breathed again, and the word hung in the air like a heavy fog. "He said I mustn't ignore it." "Who is he?" The officer pressed, one hand resting lightly on his holstered weapon, as if ready for a confrontation she couldn't see. Edna's mind raced. What was she supposed to say? That this dark figure had walked through the bank, left as suddenly as he appeared, only to imbue her with a sense of dread? Who would believe her? I don't know, she stammered, glancing nervously around her. He just warned me that it was coming. Understanding flickered in the officer's eyes, the realization dawning that this was more than just a simple warning. The crowd's noise swelled again, panic spilling over like water from a tipped glass. The officer turned back, commanding the crowd with his sharp voice, but distraction festered as disbelief spread like a virus. Outside, the shouts grew louder, and it was no longer clear if they were from the police or civilians caught up in whatever chaos was unfolding. A woman near the door fell to her knees, crying out for her children, others looking wildly around for exits. Edna felt her heart shatter a little further. "Stay close," the officer ordered, inching toward the door. Edna's body screamed to fight or to run, but curiosity anchored her to the spot. What if the stranger had known something no one else did? Would she be able to save her grandson, or would this moment's uncertainty swallow them both whole? "Ma'am, if he warned you, then there is something we need to know right now. Trust me. There's too much at stake." The urgency in his voice reverberated through her. Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside. A pair of officers rushed by, shouting instructions into their radios. The crowd surged slightly, instinctively drawn toward the sound, and Edna felt the pressure build in her chest. She wrestled with the sudden instinct to run, to flee this place steeped in tension. What if it's too late? She whispered more to herself than anyone else. Her vision blurred, thoughts spiraling, and for a moment, she was back with her grandson in that hospital room, fragile and pale. What did he mean? She thought out loud, desperate for clarity as the chaos spun all around her. The stranger hadn't just come to give her a warning. He sparked something in her soul. Did he mean regret would come for her? Behind her, the officer placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Stay with me, Edna. We need every detail. There's more happening than just the chaos outside. We can't let it take control. We need to fight back." But what was she fighting? Shadows swirled behind her as she faced a sharp realization. What if it wasn't just a threat? What if it was a warning about something else entirely? Another loud bang erupted from the entrance area, and Edna jumped, the sound ricocheting against her. The officer stiffened, a flicker of worry flashing across his face. "Everyone, to the back. Move now." Edna's heart raced, an urge to obey, but the fear of the unknown gripped her tighter than any order could. She could feel the tendrils of chaos wrapping around her. Would she be able to protect those she loved? As she turned and started moving, a thought gripped her like a vice. What if saving her grandson meant stepping into the very darkness the stranger had warned her about? With her heart pounding, she glanced back at the officer. What if we're too late? But the answer loomed heavily ahead, just beyond the barrier of chaos. And with every step, she could feel it creeping closer. It was about to unfold, and Edna knew they had to confront whatever was waiting on the other side. But would she have the strength? And what truly lay in wait, just beyond the swirling smoke of confusion? The ground shook again, more violently this time. Time was slipping away fast. Would she make the right choice before it was too late? All she could hope was that she would have the courage to face what was coming, and find the truth before it consumed them all. The ground trembled again, as if sensing the urgency of the moment. Edna pushed forward, her feet moving almost on instinct, her body propelled by the adrenaline confusion swirling in her chest. Behind her, the once chaotic crowd was tightening into a singular wave, desperate to escape as one. Panic dripped like rain in the air, sputtering breaths and exclamations mixing into a cacophony of dread. "Get down!" An officer barked, and Edna instinctively ducked, her heart racing. The air was thick with tension, and she could taste fear on her tongue. Would they really have to confront something more horrific than they could imagine? As she made it to the back of the bank, the sense of safety began to wane. What were they hiding from exactly? With each heartbeat, the urgency grew. Time was running out. The officer who had been her anchor now melted into the shifting mass of bodies, and Edna felt vulnerable. Adrift, she turned to the window, and the sight that met her eyes was a nightmare unfolding. Shadows moved erratically outside, against the backdrop of flashing lights and disarray. A figure waded through the chaos, towering and dark, flickers of red illuminating his face. It was the stranger from the bank. The one who had warned her. Edna! Someone shouted, jerking her back to reality. An older man, eyes wide with panic, clutched her arm. We need to go. They're coming. Who is coming? She asked, the words coming out sharper than she intended. No time. Just move. He shoved her toward the emergency exit. Edna hesitated, gripped by a sense of obligation. What if she left without truly understanding the danger ahead? And then it struck her, striking harder than any blow. It wasn't just her grandson she was fighting for. It was the truth, the secrets buried beneath layers of terror. Could regret really take form, manifesting in the most unimaginable way? Wait! She shouted, pulling away from the old man. We can't leave until we know what this is about. Her protests were drowned out by the chaos of shouts mixed with the echo of gunfire, jarring and familiar on her ears. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the building, a bone-shaking thud that sent shards of glass cascading like rain. Edna stumbled, falling against the wall, and fear waged war against her rationality. In that moment, everything shifted. The crowd turned as one, resignation settled on their faces. They were no longer simply fleeing. They were facing a reckoning, and Edna could feel it deep in her gut. She pushed herself up, glancing around at the faces filled with terror, confusion, and reckless hope. We can't give in to fear. She yelled, trying to rally them. We have to stand strong. But deep down, doubt gnawed at her. What if I'm wrong? She thought as the dark figure from the window loomed closer. Perhaps it wasn't merely a warning, perhaps it was inevitable. Regret would find them all, and each soul had a different story to tell. The officer returned, panting, urgency threading through his every move. We have to go. They're breaching the front. Edna felt the weight of decisions press upon her. Did she join the others destined to scatter? Or did she confront the truth head-on, no matter the cost? Tension hung like a noose. She could sense the darkness wrapping around her like a shroud, whispering promises of despair. But she held her ground, stubbornly defiant. I'm not leaving until I know. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed through the building as the dark figure stepped into the light, his face obscured but unmistakably present. The crowd recoiled, gasping. Regret is here, he declared, his voice a low rumble that sent shockwaves through her very core. What do you want? Edna shouted, the words escaping before she could think them through. There was no taking them back now. An eerie silence followed, tension crackling in the air, and with every heartbeat, she realized that this wasn't just about her grandson. It was far bigger, far darker. As the crowd held their breath, the figure gestured towards her, his gaze locking onto hers with a gaze weighty with prophecy. You saw it. The truth, Edna. Now, face it. And in that moment, she understood. The real battle wasn't against the chaos outside, but against the demons lurking within each of them. But as the shadows drew closer, she knew too what awaited them all might be far worse than she ever dared to imagine. The air was heavy with an almost tangible dread. Edna felt the pull of her own heartbeat, a frantic drum thrumming in her ears. The dark figure loomed larger, closing in his presence thick and suffocating, like smoke choking the last breaths of fire. The murmurs of the crowd escalated, a low tide of fear rising in tandem with her own panic. Face it? She echoed, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. What truth? What do you want from me? The figure remained silent, a shadow caught between worlds. Edna could feel the weight of countless eyes on her, each gaze a bridge from fear to confusion to anger. They all wanted answers, but what could she possibly provide? Everyone, listen. She shouted, the fire inside her now more pronounced. We cannot break down now. If there's a chance to understand this, if there's a chance to save our families, we need to unite. Her voice felt thin against the chaos, intangibly frail, but it sliced through the murmur of despair. Some heads turned, faces shifting from terror to attention. But others remained lost in the glare of panic, like moths drawn to a flickering flame they knew could burn them. The figure took another step closer, and with it, a gust of cold air swept through the bank, chilling Edna to the bone. "Regret feeds on fear," he said, his voice now resonating with an otherworldly echo. "You've all wandered into its embrace. And you, Edna, you've summoned it." Summoned? Edna felt her chest tighten, a new layer of fear splintering through her. "I didn't summon anything. I'm just here for my grandson." "My dear," he replied with a twisted smile, "that is precisely the problem." In that instant, the world around her began to shift, the walls of the bank seemed to bend and warp, the light flashing as if the room itself were struggling against the weight of the truth. The crowd wavered, uncertain, and she felt the ground tremble beneath her feet once more. "Your truths, your secrets, they are tangled in a web of illusion. How much longer can you hold on to your past without being consumed by it? When was the last time you truly faced your own regret?" A swirl of memories hit her, moments of pain, missed chances, words left unspoken. Her breath became shallow as each thought collided with another. Why was he doing this? What was he trying to unveil? Around her, whispers slithered. "Maybe we should leave," one woman urged, her voice quaking. "No." Edna shot back, pushing back against the tide of doubt wrapping around her. "We can't run. There's only one way through this. We stand, we face it. We face him." The figure chuckled softly, an unsettling sound that echoed off the walls. "Do you think mere courage can cleanse the past? Face regret? Understand it? You can try, but the truth is often a horror beyond your reckoning." Suddenly, the lights dimmed, plunging the bank into darkness, punctuated only by the flicker of red flashing outside, where chaos reigned. An eerie silence fell, stretching into the deepest corners of her mind. What awaited them beyond those doors? Would surrender mean salvation or doom? As the shadows thickened around her, Edna took a deep breath, exhaling readiness into the abyss ahead. "Regret, I am not afraid of you," she declared, the tremor in her voice settling into a steadiness she didn't know she possessed, and with that, she felt something shift. The dark figure hesitated, surprise flickering across his menacing face. "You think you can confront it?" he challenged. "You may yet discover that the greatest horrors are not always external but internal." Just then, a shockwave rippled through the room. An explosion rocked the bank again, shaking loose debris from the ceiling. Dust and ash swirled around them. "Edna!" The voice of the older man cried out again, panic bursting in his tone. "What are we waiting for? We need to move." But she wasn't ready to turn away yet. "No," she said, her heart racing with determination. "Not until I truly understand what this means, not until I know what kind of fight awaits us." The figure smiled, his eyes narrowing. "Very well. But remember, knowledge comes at a cost." A loud crash thundered through the building, a new danger emerging from the shadows. With every ounce of her being, Edna could sense that her struggle was just beginning, but as they braced for what lay ahead, she couldn't shake the chilling thought: had she truly awoken a beast greater than she could ever hope to conquer? The ground shook again, more violently this time, and Edna stumbled backward, the dust swirling around her like an angry bead curtain blocking the light. She could hear screams, the sharp intake of breath, the cries of people losing hope, the very foundation of their reason shattered. The figure, still looming, seemed to thrive on their fear, absorbing the panic in the air like some kind of dark delight. "Edna!" It was the older man again, his voice now a frantic shout. "We can't stay here. We have to get out before no." She snapped, frustration boiling over. "You don't understand. If we run, we'll be leaving behind the only chance we have to confront this. Look around you, the truth is in this room." His face twisted in desperation. "The truth? All I see is an empty abyss pulling us under. We need safety before it's too late." But Edna stood her ground. The figure was right. They couldn't hide forever. She took a few steps closer, feeling the weight of every fearful gaze upon her. "Listen. We have to face whatever this is. Together. It's our only hope. The crowd's whispers turned to low murmurs again, the fear palpable. Some people began to nod, hesitant but leaning toward her belief. Edna steeled herself, pushing aside her own terror to rally them. Do you feel that? The darkness is overwhelming, but it thrives on our fear. We can't give it what it wants. As if responding to her challenge, the figure raised an arm. From the shadows, a flicker of light ignited amid the debris. A vision played before them, images looping like a haunting film. Edna gasped as she recognized her past, fragile moments, flickering memories, and bitter regrets that she thought long buried. Her betrayal, her whispered lies, her rejection of the truth when she needed it most, they all played out in front of her like a theater of horror. No! Edna yelled, shaking her head violently. You won't control me like this. She turned to the crowd, desperation sweeping over her face. Look! These are our pasts, but they don't define us. We have the power to change our narrative. In that moment, a shift occurred. The onlookers, fueled by the flicker of hope in her eyes, began to move closer together, clenching their fists, anchoring their shared resolve. The dark figure's smirk faded as the energy in the room pulsed, a collective determination igniting like a flame in the pitch darkness. Know this, Edna. His voice boomed again, laced with venom. Fighting your past never ends without sacrifice. You stand on the brink, and the precipice awaits your fall. But Edna refused to falter. A sacrifice is worth making if it means breaking free. We are not prisoners of our memories, nor will we be bystanders to our regrets. The ground trembled violently beneath them, walls cracked with unsettling sounds that echoed like an angry whisper. Amid the chaos, something bright flickered into existence, a shattering light against the shadows that threatened to consume them whole. Edna stepped forward, reaching toward the light with every ounce of her being. Gather your strength. She screamed, urging the others to follow her lead. This fight is ours. Together, we can rise from these ashes. Then, without warning, a gust of wind swept through the bank, causing the lights to flicker back into life. Faces illuminated, some now reflected hope, while others still bore the marks of trepidation. The dark figure roared in frustration, shadows twisting around him like whips. Your fate is sealed. He bellowed, the room vibrating with his malice. You will regret your defiance. But Edna stood resolute, the warmth of the light enveloping her like a protective shield. No! She shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. You are not the master of our fate. We will face this together. Then, with a blinding flash, energy surged through the room, a visual thunderstorm of light bursting against the darkness, a force awakening. The chaos surged, but within her, a voice whispered, resonating with a primal truth, promising power beyond comprehension. But at what cost? The shattering of reality loomed, clarity was close, yet the figure's laughter echoed, a mocking refrain in the unraveling darkness. Part of Edna feared what clarity would reveal, knowing that confronting the truth could unlock something horrible. What had she stirred awake? What futility awaited her if she pushed further into this chaotic abyss? As the lights flickered, Edna felt the ground solidify beneath her. With hearts pounding, she and the survivors stood on the edge of an answer, but the question blazed brightly in their minds: would facing this truth mean embracing salvation or unleashing a deeper horror? The blinding light surged with a pulse of energy, enveloping everyone in its warmth. Edna felt it like the first breath after emerging from underwater. The sensation was intoxicating yet terrifying. The flickering shadows that had once consumed them were momentarily pushed back, revealing features she'd never noticed before, lines of determination on some faces, while others were masked with a raw apprehension. She glanced around, searching for the older man, the one who had pleaded for escape. His eyes were wide, reflecting a glimmer of hope, but also a flicker of fear that whispered he might still break ranks. Stand firm. She urged, her voice wavering slightly but still commanding attention. We are stronger together. The rumble of the ground intensified, threatening to swallow them whole once more. The grotesque figure had lost its smirk. It seemed to hesitate, as if recoiling in response to the surge of unity forming among them. Foolish mortals. It spat, its voice sharp enough to crack the very air around them. Unity against your past? You are nothing but dust against the storm. But Edna's resolve only strengthened, the warmth in her chest expanded, filling the void left by doubt. The storm has come, but we are the architects of our destiny. She raised her arms high, calling the light to her. It surged forward, casting a protective barrier against the figure's encroaching shadows. The room split into a cacophony of swirling fears. Faces began to twist, revealing the stories hidden underneath. Edna caught glimpses of the other's torments, a lost child, a mother's tears, betrayal deeply etched in friendships once thought unbreakable. Each pain was a thread, weaving into a collective tapestry of suffering and resilience. Look! She shouted, pointing to the swirling mass of emotions coalescing into a fleeting silhouette, an array of vibrant colors fighting against the shadowy figure. Those are our truths. They don't define us, they unite us. With a roar of desperation, the dark figure lunged forward, hands stretching in a desperate attempt to reclaim the fear that had once filled the room. I will consume you. You thrive on pain, and pain is all I know. But as Edna and the crowd focused on the unity blossoming within them, they began to push back, channeling memories of joy, courage, and triumph into a vibrating force. Light crackled and exploded into tendrils that snaked out toward the figure, weaving a barrier of warmth and power, yet lurking beneath the surface was something dark, an ancient urge to give in, to dwell on the grief and pain, to lay down and accept defeat. Edna could feel it pulling at her, tempting her to falter. Trembling at the weight, she threw her head back and screamed, "No. We are worthy of love and forgiveness. We will not be your prisoners." A seismic shift resonated through the room as energy erupted outward. Light twisted into blinding beams, shattering the darkness. The figure recoiled, its shadowed form constricting and curling like smoke in the wind, screeching in anguish as it pulled itself further into the void. Just then, a sharp crack tore through the air like thunder. The floor opened beneath them, a jagged fissure appearing as if the very earth couldn't handle the confrontation. Edna's heart raced, fear roaring in her ears, but she poured all her strength into the light, urging everyone to hold tight. The crowd clenched hands, eyes wide with a shared mix of terror and resolve. "This is our moment," she cried, feeling powerful yet vulnerable. "Together, we can seal this darkness. Do not let go." The fissure widened, threatening to open like a gaping maw ready to swallow them whole. Edna felt the pulsing energy shift again, the balance tipping as darkness fought against their light. What would happen if they pushed too far? Would this confrontational path bring them salvation or obliteration? As the figure screeched, its form quaking in the assault of the light, the ground beneath them buckled with an intensity that made Edna's breath hitch. In that fiery moment, she realized the truth lay not just in facing their fears but in embracing the unknown that awaited them, and as the world around her began to collapse in chaotic flashes of light and shadow, she couldn't help but wonder, had they stirred something more terrifying than darkness? Would the abyss truly devour them all? As the floor cracked deeper and the darkness writhed, Edna braced herself, caught between the flickering light and an overwhelming void. What would it take to finally seal the shadows and step into the new dawn? Edna's heart pounded, the sound echoing in her ears like the thrum of a war drum. The light swelled around them, a beacon in the overwhelming darkness that threatened to devour everything. She could feel her energy wavering, the flicker of uncertainty nudging at the edges of her resolve. There was a charge in the air, a palpable tension thickening with every heartbeat. "Hold on," she shouted, her voice cracking slightly, but the urgency pushed her forward. The fissure widened beneath them, jagged edges gleaming menacingly in the bright light. Each second felt like an eternity, and the dark figure seemed almost to pulse with malicious intent, rallying itself against the warmth that enveloped them. "Channel your memories," Edna urged, her eyes darting around the crowd. She locked eyes with the older man who had stood firm earlier, and his face stirred something within her. Memories of laughter around dinner tables, the playful banter of friends, and quiet moments of solace ignited inside her. "Remember why we fight." As if responding to her desperation, the light around them intensified, and she could see it, the swirling shadows began to whimper and shrink away from the warmth. "Don't look back," she bellowed, hoping to push them beyond the brink of despair. "Our past doesn't bind us, it empowers us." But the figure screeched again, a horrid sound that clawed at the brains of those who heard it. "You can't escape what you are. You are the sum of your scars. Your pain is my power." The shadows surged forth, thick waves trying to engulf the shining light they had conjured. It was a malicious grasp that tugged at their very beings, whispering doubts that wormed into their hearts. Edna felt the darkness slither around her, a weight pressing down on her chest. No. Not today. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she pushed her thoughts of light higher, igniting a fire deep within her. She could sense the others drawing energy from their own victories, a collective determination erupting in powerful waves. They were not just faces in the crowd, they were a legion. As thoughts of love and light cascaded through them, a brilliant beam shot from Edna's outstretched palms toward the fractured ground. "We stand together," she roared, thrusting the light more forcefully. The fissure began to vibrate, the shadows wailing in evident fear as their grasp on the group loosened. "You will pay for this, Edna," the figure roared, its face contorting in rage and sorrow, revealing flickers of vulnerability hidden deep within the darkness. "No," she shouted, fueled by a rush of triumph. "You cannot own us." As the light drilled through the fracture, colorful tendrils raced against the oppressive shadows, weaving into cracks, mending what was broken. She felt the tears of the others alongside their laughter, and suddenly, they were not just a group, they were a tapestry of every experience ever woven into their souls. The ground quaked violently underfoot, seeking resolution between the light and dark. "Faster. Don't let it engulf you," Edna cried, her voice gaining shrill clarity as waves of raw energy surged around them. The momentary flare of ease in her heart turned sudden dread as the darkness lashed out again, breaking through their defenses with a primal fury. The ground split open further, catching Edna off guard. She stumbled, gripping the nearest person, her fingers clenching tightly. "We can't give in," she shouted, resolute. But then, as the shadows lashed out once more, voices echoed from the depths, vague whispers of those they had lost, names she'd never spoken but felt crushingly familiar. "Embrace me," the darkness hissed, rising like a tempest. "Together, we can rewrite your stories." Edna's breath caught in her throat as the shadows beckoned with promises of release. Could they trust in that? Tears began to form in the corners of her eyes as dread pooled in her gut. "What do we do?" she thought, as hesitation threatened to break their unity. A cataclysmic rift opened wider before them, the darkness swirling like a storm ready to unleash its fury. She could only watch helplessly as the crowd began to falter, eyes glazing over. "Fight back," Edna screamed, desperate to rekindle the flames of will. But could they withstand the pull? Or was this the moment everything would come crashing down around them? The answer loomed there, hidden in swirling shadows, waiting just beyond their reach. The shadows twisted around Edna, swirling like a vortex of despair. Panic gripped her chest as she watched faces that had once been filled with determination now flicker like dying embers. She needed to act, to break the trance, but the darkness whispered promises that curled around their minds like slick tendrils, coaxing them into submission. "Focus," she shouted, drawing deep from a well of memories that anchored her. Laughter of children playing, the warmth of her grandmother's embrace, the taste of her favorite pie. Each memory climbed up from her heart and poured out, igniting the room in a luminous glow. "Remember why we're here. Remember who we are." But the voices of the shadows were growing, drowning her out. "You are nothing but your failures. Why fight a battle already lost?" The dark figure surged forward, its elongated fingers clawing towards Edna, desperate and hungry. Then, a faint flicker of light burst from the older man's hands. He grasped his daughter's hand, choking back sobs. "No. We're not done," he cried out. The glimmer spread, igniting the spirits around them. It was like a chain reaction, their shared resolve stepping up as raw memories and emotions collided, creating an energy that rang in the air. Edna seized this moment, shouting louder than before. Together, we are stronger. Let us remind them of our battles. Our stories. Her hands remained outstretched, sending radiant beams to connect with everyone, one by one, rallying their spirits. As uncertain hearts began to rally again, she felt the heat of their collective energy surging. Despair clawed at her, but hope bubbled to the surface. The fissure vibrated violently with the power of their memories. It was intoxicating. Then, in the cacophony of emotion, a shadow loomed larger. The figure was losing control, the rage morphing into something frighteningly desperate. You think your light can extinguish me? I am your deepest fears. It lunged, sending out shards of darkness like daggers aimed at their unity. Edna's heart raced as she watched them hurtle through the air. She willed her body to move, her arms forming an invisible barrier between the shadows and her friends. No! She yelled, every muscle in her body tensing. We stand united. Fingers collided with her, each new wave of energy filling her with courage. She could feel the light expanding, pushing back against the darkness. But just as victory felt close enough to taste, chaos erupted. The ground rumbled menacingly, and the shadows twisted into grotesque figures, morphing into faces from her past. Friends. Family. Every ghost of regret and grief that had ever haunted her. Why did you leave us? One echoed, its voice haunting. Edna staggered back, crushed beneath the weight of memories she thought she delayed to rest. You're not real. She shouted, fighting off despair. You cannot control me. She felt the warmth around her dim as their collective light flickered in uncertainty. Edna. The older man's voice cut through her chaos. Hold on to us. We are here. We can't become what we feared. With that, she inhaled deeply and summoned every fragment of resilience within her. The memories became sparks of defiance, igniting the color of hope that pushed back against darkness. In that moment, she saw at the fractures of despair beginning to heal, a luminous web of light stretching across the darkness. The shadows recoiled, shrieking. Edna realized they had the power over their fears, but she had to lead them. Now. Push it back. With your memories, with your love. As they leaned together, the darkness began to rupture, the cries morphing from terror into the sound of splintering wood. They were not just deep-seated fears, they were pieces of their journey, reminders of trials that shaped them. But just as the light began to swallow the dark, a chilling laugh echoed through the air, shuddering her spine. Your struggle is meaningless. You cannot escape your true self. What hidden truth lay beneath the shadows? As cracks in the ground widened threateningly, Edna felt dread coil back in her chest. A new sense of foreboding settled in. Was victory truly theirs, or was there something darker lurking, waiting to be revealed? The ground trembled as energies clashed again, and the darkness lurched forward, ready to unleash its final fury. Edna felt a surge of determination wash over her. Together, we are not afraid. She shouted, rallying the emboldened members of the crowd around her. The momentary flicker of doubt slowly began to fade, replaced by fierce unity that radiated warmth through the chaos, but even as she stood firm, the figure loomed like an avalanche ready to crash. You think you can defy me? It swept a wave of darkness toward them, fingers elongated and twisted, ready to snatch the light from their hearts. No. The collective shout was thunderous, a resolute roar that filled the air. Edna's heart raced, and she felt an electric pulse course through her body, mixing with glimmers of light that they had conjured together. Every person grasped onto each other tightly as memories swirled around them. Laughter, love, dreams unrealized, each one a flickering spark. Edna latched onto the warmth of laughter at family gatherings, moments of triumph and sheer joy laced with vulnerability. Focus. She shouted above the din, her voice unwavering. Hold on to your voices, your memories. Do not let fear take hold. Fight for what we love. They felt it then, a building power surging through them as more and more of the crowd joined in, cheering and shouting, reclaiming their lights. We are stronger together. A chorus erupted, and Edna let the memories wash over her like a wave, confident they could push back the encroaching darkness. When we are united, you are nothing. They yelled, each person pouring emotions into the chaotic blend of colors that now surrounded them, taking shape like a protective barrier against the chilling shadows, but the dark figure howled, air-laden anger piercing the once thick air. You dare challenge your own existence? You'll fall like all who come before you. With a sweeping motion, the shadows lashed out again, flinging despair like grappling vines. Edna felt a tug at her heart, a whisper of deep-rooted fears pushing against her. You belong to us, they hissed. You're nothing without your regrets. No. She bellowed, refusing to let the cold embrace of despair take hold. It was now or never. We fight for our love. We remember, but we will not be owned by it. And then, a blinding burst of energy erupted from their united souls. It exploded in a kaleidoscope of hues that erupted outward, flooding the shadows with warmth and pure defiance. The figure faltered, its twisted face exposed as the darkness cracked around it. Desperation seeped into its furious eyes. This can't be. It screamed, echoing with a guttural disdain. Feel the love, the hope. Edna cried as whispers of encouragement filled the room like a symphony. The fissure widened, threatening to swallow them, but they stood their ground, their love pouring through. As the shadows unleashed their final onslaught, a radiant beam emitted from Edna, its brilliance cutting through the dark mist, igniting courage in those around her. We are not alone. They shouted, harnessing the power of memories and love, the light cresting higher. Edna stepped forward, eyes fierce, drawing everyone's collective energy, melding them into one courageous pulse. Face the light. She commanded as they surged forward, not out of fear, but out of sheer strength. As the darkness screamed, it found itself engulfed, collapsing in on itself, the shadows evaporating like mist under the sun. Each cry melted away until silence hung in the air, splattered with echoes of what had once been. In that moment, Edna blinked through the blinding white light. Slowly, reality began to shift back into place. The oppressive heaviness lifted. She was still in the bank, but a surreal calm blanketed the room, punctuated only by heavy breaths and tentative laughter. They had prevailed. Together. Is it over? The older man's voice cut through her thoughts. She turned, eyes meeting his, both feeling the weight of their shared journey. I think it is, she breathed, hope shimmering in her chest. We faced the darkness together. We can rebuild. A wave of disbelief washed over her as those around began to realize they were safe. Satisfaction formed a glow of joy that warmed her heart. Our stories don't bind us. They empower us. We are alive. Edna exclaimed, arms thrown wide, embracing her community of survivors. The crowd erupted into cheers, laughter mingling freely now where fear had once gripped them. As they trickled out of the bank, each face reflected the energy of their shared experience, lives intertwined in an unbreakable tapestry of resilience. Edna found her grandson's name in the thrumming of her heart, a silent vow swelling within her. With her eyes twinkling, she waved to those milling about. Remember this, she called, her voice clear and strong. We are defined not by our failures, but by the love we share and the battles we choose to face together. As they forged ahead into the afternoon light, Edna felt the warmth of hope blossom anew. It was not an ending, but a beginning, and just as the shadows had faded, she carried within her an unwavering light that would illuminate the road ahead. Now it's time for you to stand together. You need to subscribe now to this channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories that inspire us all. Don't wait even one more second to smash that like button. It helps share our journey with everyone. Flood the comments section. What did you think about Edna's epic struggle? Did you find hope in her story? Share your thoughts and reactions below, and don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let us spread the love and connect with one another, together.